Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode, we are going to be talking about having a single medical coding credential or having multiple medical coding credentials. Why do people do this? You see this impressive array of credentials behind people's names and you wonder, is having an alphabet really a good thing? Is it a competitive edge? What's the deal here? All right, so let's get into it. My first thing that I want to say is that if you are a brand new medical coder and this is your first time in the field, there is no sense in getting multiple medical coding credentials. Start out with one medical coding credential. And the reason that I suggest this, okay, because this is my opinion, I've been in this field for over a decade. I've seen a lot and I've seen people come and go. I've seen people who have gotten into it and really thrive because they found their home. And then I've seen people who absolutely was like, what did I get myself into? Okay, so I hope that by sharing my opinions today, it will help you, give you some insight as to what to do, okay, in the future. All right, so yeah, I say if you're a brand new coder to start out with one medical coding credential because you do have to pay for each credential that you hold. You do have to pay for what's called continuing education units or CEUs, okay? And they can vary. The amount can vary from however many credentials you hold to what credential are you holding. So there's two major medical coding associations. There's two powerhouses. There's AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, and there's AAPC, the American Academy of Professional Coders. Each has their own credential. Now, some people will ask, hey, if I got one credential through AHIMA, should I get a credential through AAPC? This is the thing. Again, if you're brand new and starting out, start with one association, one credential. As you go along, these additional credentials are going to show specificity. This is why you may see people with a huge long alphabet after their name, because maybe they've gotten a degree and then maybe they got a credential and then maybe they have a specialized credential like for clinical documentation improvement or privacy or something, whatever. They could have a different reasons that they're having additional credentials. But those are for people who have been in the field for a while. It will help them because for whatever reason they've advanced in their field and they want to show a certain specialty towards something. That's the reason why some people do it. Again, for every credential that you hold, you're going to have continuing education units for that credential. And if you are with one association, it's really going to depend. And they will tell you how many credentials, not credentials, how many continuing education units you are going to need. If you are dual credentialed through both AHIMA and AAPC, you're causing yourself to have to pay out more money, okay? If you don't have a lot of experience and if you're just trying to get a job, just stick with one credential because it's really easy to rack up the dollars that you have to spend to maintain these credentials. Now, sometimes continuing education units are a benefit of your employer. Where I work, it is a benefit of my employment. They pay for my continuing education units. I don't have to pay anything out of pocket. I do pay for myself to go to the annual AHIMA conference. Obviously, I'm not going this year because of COVID, but every year I go, I get a huge amount of continuing education units because I attend these as well. And of course, I get the continuing education units from my employer. So I'm generally covered with when it comes to continuing education units for my credential. Now, I stress the importance of this because sometimes people get very excited and they get one credential and they say, oh, I can get another credential. And it'll show that I have 2 or 3 credentials on my name. And yes, while it looks nice, it's impressive, you have to have the experience to go along with those additional credentials. So if you're brand new and starting out and you got all of these credentials behind your name, they're going to expect you to know more. The more longer your alphabet, the more impressive they're going to want you to be. And the more advanced they're going to expect you to be. So if you don't have any hands-on experience coding in the real world just yet, just kind of slow down and just start with one. A lot of times when people get the degrees, when they go through the degree program through AHIMA, they'll have either the RHIT, which is Registered Health Information Technician, or the RHIA, the Registered Health Information Administrator. I said it wrong the other day. That's why I'm trying to say it slow. But they'll have that. And sometimes their employer will ask them to also hold a standard medical coding credential, which is like the CCS. Most times when they have a degree like that, they want them to have the CCS. Or, if they're going to go the AAPC route, they can get the CPC. It just depends on what additional credentials they're looking for. But generally, if you're getting an additional credential to supplement your degree, which a lot of times if you have a degree, it's no big deal. They'll take the degree. But some employers are going to want you to have an additional medical coding credential to go along with it. Okay. To me, I would be happy if I saw somebody with a degree. I'll be like, oh, yeah, you don't need. But that's what they ask for. So who am I? But yeah, sometimes you'll see that. And sometimes I'll have other things like clinical documentation improvement or whatever. But again, these additional credentials are showing a greater level of specificity and a higher sophistication when it comes to medical coding. So that's why they do it. Everybody's journey in medical coding is different. If it happens that your employer will pay for you to get another credential, then by all means jump on that, because obviously the more education you can get and that you don't have to pay out of pocket for, the better off you'll be. I mean, it just makes you look better. And, overall, you'll be able to learn a lot more things. But with more credentials is more responsibility. So that's why I say, just slow down. If this is your first time, this is the thing. You have to make sure that your concentration is on nothing else once you get that credential, but to find your first job. That's your first thing that you got to do. Worry about all the other credentials later. When you've gotten experience, when you've got your foot in the door, when you know and understand what you're looking at, okay, then you can worry about additional credentials. But for the time being, when you get your credential, concentrate on looking for a job, because that's going to be where your biggest hurdle is going to be. It's hard enough, right, to get through the school, to pass the credential exam, because these credential exams are not easy, and they are deliberately meant to not be easy, okay? But once you get past those, then you got to get the job, okay? Get the job and decide if you like it, because sometimes people will be sold medical coding as a profession, and then they get into it and they decide, what the heck did I get myself into? I don't like this. I don't like the fact that I have to read. That's why I try to be as real with you all as possible, okay? I tell you all, even the things that upset me and frustrate me, and I'm not always giving you guys a rosy picture, because I want you guys to understand that this stuff is real. I mean, this profession is so important, and I think that sometimes people don't understand the importance of what we do. This is why it's always important to put your best foot forward, and in what you learn along the way is really going to shape how you are and how you are with records and things like that. So yes, while having a huge alphabet is very impressive, it's not everything. And I've known people who have long alphabets who they don't know how to apply codes. They're really good at school and they're really good at taking tests, but when it comes to the real world, they're not really very good hands-on with doing those things. I've had over a decade, which is why my skills are a lot sharper than just somebody that's brand new to the field, okay? Because that's just what happens with time and when you start investing more of yourself into it. But this is why I always tell you guys that I don't look at the credentials of the person. I don't look at what credentials they hold, because the caliber of the coder is going to be different. I look at, do they dig? Do they know their guidelines? Do they know their stuff? Are they detailed? That's how I look at the mark of a really good medical coder, is by that. And yes, while you can have all of these credentials and you can have, oh, I have a credential for billing and I have all this and all that. You know, with billing, you don't have to be credentialed. And I want to make sure that I say this every single time, because a lot of people, there's another program through another agency association. I've never seen anybody asking for that particular credential, but I mean, you know, it's just different everywhere. Before you get into a program, though, make sure whatever credential that you do want to sit for, that it's in demand in that area. Okay, that's the best thing that you can do. Look under medical coder, medical records tech, medical records, health information management. You can look under those titles when you're looking for jobs, okay? And look and see what credentials are they asking for, all right? If they're looking for a CCS, which is the gold standard, and I will keep saying it, it is the gold standard, because the CCS is offered with AHIMA, the American Health Information Management Association, and it is basically telling the employer, yes, this person can code both inpatient and outpatient. So this is a very well-rounded coder. This is somebody that can be really plopped anywhere and be able to fly. Now, if you were to try to plop me in inpatient coding, I'd be floundering like a fish out of water, right? Because I haven't had a lot of hands-on experience with coding inpatient, okay? So there's a little difference there. Now, yes, I've got stuff going on in the back, but it doesn't mean that I have hands-on experience yet. And so there's a huge difference between being a coder that has worked with the books versus being in the real world. And a lot of people get confused when I say that. Real world coding is completely different from the book. Now, yes, the fundamentals are the same. The looking up the codes and things like that, it's all going to be the same. But the rules and everything else that you got to face when you're on the outside with the insurance company, with the hospital, with the facility, with whatever, there's all of those to consider. Okay, so if you're trying to up your game and trying to get a competitive edge when you're first starting out, and you're thinking, oh yeah, if I get all these credentials, I'm gonna look really good. It looks really good, but then when you say, okay, they're gonna say, okay, well here's your pre-employment test. Let's see what you got. Now you may be able to navigate through some of them, but I mean, you really have to make sure that you totally understand what you're doing, okay? Because each one of those credentials is going to cost you money. Okay, so that is my thoughts on that one. So hopefully that has helped to explain. But some people do it just because they think it gives them a competitive edge. A lot of times they're just looking for one credential when you are applying for jobs. They want one credential at least, and they want you to have experience. Now, yes, when you are first starting out, how am I supposed to get experience? What do I do? Okay, there's a lot of different ways, and I've talked about it so many times on my videos. You got to go through temporary agencies. You have to start maybe in medical billing. You have to start in medical records. Then you work your way up. Sometimes you can get lucky and be able to just get in with no experience because you knocked their socks off with the pre-employment exam, okay? Which you will have to be assessed every single time you apply for a job, okay? And if they give you an assessment, they're going to give you a shot. Now, with COVID, everything is slowed down right now, and I will say that every time I talk about getting a job or credentials or whatever. Everything is slowed down right now. Nobody is sitting for exams right now, okay? So we don't know when everything is going to go back up and running again, okay? Hopefully it is going to be sooner rather than later, okay? But keep in mind that when it does open back up, when we do as a nation get back up on our feet again, after this thing gets back under control, they're going to need medical coders. And they're going to need them in the worst possible way. Because think about it. in about 9 months, so in about December, there's going to be a huge baby boom. That's a lot of babies that's going to be born. A lot of OBGYN coders is going to be fast and furious. A lot of ER coders is going to be fast and furious. And then in about another 9 months after that, you're going to have another baby boom. Okay? So there's going to be a lot of work to do. So keep this in mind when you are perhaps getting discouraged. Eventually, if you keep knocking on a bunch of doors, somebody will let you in. But start out simple and start out with one thing, okay? One credential, go with one association, and then when you've had time to build on your experience, then you can think about sitting for another specialty credential, another certification where you can up your game and show that you're a little bit more sophisticated when it comes to whichever setting that you want to be in, whether it's outpatient or inpatient or, things like that. But you really kind of want to avoid getting credentials where you're basically doing the same thing. If you have your CCS, why would you get a CPC along with it? You're saying that you're a certified coder. Now, CPC is mostly outpatient. That's my understanding. Okay, don't shoot. But it's my understanding it's mostly outpatient. Okay, it's not inpatient, but it's mostly outpatient. But the CCS is both outpatient and inpatient. So basically, you're doubling the credentials for what? Just because you can say that you're a member of both associations? I mean, think about it. It's more money you got to put out to take care of those credentials. All right. So again, or if you have a CCS and then you take the CIC, Certified Inpatient Coder, with AAPC, and then you have a CPC on top of that, you got 3 credentials now, basically saying the same thing with the CCS. So really understand and know what credentials you're trying to get, okay? And what does that mean? Like with the HIMA, they have the Certified Documentation and Clinical Documentation Improvement Practitioner, which is a really good supplement to like the CCS or the CCSP, because it's telling the person who's looking at those credentials that this person is certified clinical documentation practitioner, okay? In clinical documentation improvement, okay? Practitioner, that's what I meant. So think about it like that, okay? That's supplementing, okay? That is saying there's a higher level of sophistication with this coder. This coder is specialized in this. There's so many specialty credentials, and each association has their standards of what they require if it is advanced beyond just your standard medical coding credentials, okay? If you're getting something more specialized, that means you're specializing in that particular thing. And I think, AAPC, they have a lot of specialized credentials, but really look and understand what do those credentials mean and how is that going to impact you. How many more continuing education units are you going to have in order to support those credentials? Because you can't sit there and duplicate, credentials, okay? If they're looking for those, I mean, you can't duplicate the CEUs, not the credentials, the CEUs. You can't duplicate those, like you can't use them, right? Over and over again. You have to be able to support the weight of those credentials with your continuing education units, okay? It's just something to keep in mind. Now, I am very much into being smart when it comes to how you're developing as a coder. If you get your credential and you start out with your one credential and you decide, hey, I want to do the AHIMA degree programs, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful, because then it says that you're really committed. You're committed to wanting to continue to learn and make yourself more specialized. Okay, so I mean, there's always that, but yeah, that is my my thoughts on this, and I hope that this has helped. I would like to thank Zoe. Zoe was the inspiration behind today's episode because we talked about there's a course, okay? It was a course through AAPC, and I mistakenly thought it was another credential until I looked at the description, and it's another course, okay? If you're taking courses to supplement your learning, and in this particular case, it was a course for the electronic health record, which it gave you continuing education units, which is wonderful. I mean, that's a good idea. If you are needing to get continuing education units, taking those supplemental courses, it's a really good thing. It's not going to give you a credential, another credential, but it is going to give you CEUs. So that was a really good thing. And yes, but discussing that and learning the difference, okay, that inspired today's episode. So I hope you all enjoyed it. And this episode is being pre-recorded, so it is actually Sunday night. And I have this will have this preloaded for Monday at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So y'all will be seeing me. I will be working in my home office. This is so weird. It's so weird to work at home. But that is the reality that I'm in right now. So, but anyway, I will just go ahead and wrap this one up. But again, I hope this has helped. If you're a brand new coder, I know it's a lot. And I know that it's like so many different acronyms being thrown at you, and you're like, okay, whatever. But at least we talk about it, and it'll make more sense later on. At least that's the hope anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. But if this video has helped you, I hope you give it a thumbs up. I hope you'll share it with your other fellow medical coders. And if you are a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. I will see y'all next time. Bye.